Cuco 1. Cuco was the permanent friend of the rich kids in town, but he was poor, and although he dressed well and wore nice shoes, the time came when his friends grew up and their expenses and needs increased. The time of courtship arrived, the serenading of the sweetheart, the parties, invitations for coffee, card games, riding around in a nice car, the time to go away to college. The years went by and Cuco was already 21 years old and had no money, and what was even worse, he did not go to school, so naturally he felt excluded. A good friend helped him see reality and helped him realize that he was not rich, he had no schooling, no work, and advised him to go to Mexico City to find work. He could get a nice job there. And so he did and filled applications at many places. One of the few things he knew how to do was to drive, so with that and the little schooling he had, the only job he found was working as a salesman for metal detection instruments, you know, the kind to find treasures with. That was not what Cuco was hoping for, but it was a job. On top of that, it was not in Mexico City, but in order to sell them he had to travel all over the country, and so he began in Zacatecas, which is where he was sent to go door to door. It was very difficult, but that is exactly what he had to do. It was the only way to sell the treasure detectors. At least he had enough to eat and a little to spare. Many times he returned to the city for more detectors, which he called dream machines, and so he was able to visit all the cities in the state of Zacatecas. And so it went for many years, traveling through all the states of the Republic. Those were different times, back around 1970. He had gone through many states and countless cities before a surprise came his way. He was going to the state of Guanajuato, and one of its cities was only 3 hours from his hometown, the place where he had been born and had spent his childhood, adolescence and part of his young adult years so happily. Finally he covered the whole state of Guanajuato, leaving to the end that city that was so close to his hometown, Acambaro. The time finally arrived when he made his way towards it. He arrived at night. He had already restocked his merchandise. His truck was loaded with new machines. He checked in at a hotel, the first one he saw, as he was tired. Next day he calculated he would be staying at least 2 months in that place, since he was planning on visiting all the neighboring towns, so he decided to rent a house on the edge of town. It wasn't easy, but finally he found a large house, that although old, had a garage, and even though the rent was high, it still would be much cheaper than a hotel room. The house had no furniture at all, so he bought everything he needed, as he considered that at the end of the stay he would take home all the things he bought. He also hired someone to do the cleaning and finally got settled in as he wished. He was very happy in his new abode, and dedicated himself to work, offering his detectors, which obviously he couldn't always sell. Among all that people he tried to convince of the qualities and virtues of the detectors, he came across an elderly gentleman who said to him, "So my friend, if your machines are as good as you say, how come you have not located a treasure yourself?"